Questions, please.
I'm sure there'll be a press conference when we don't ask you about COVID protocols, but given what the NFL sent out yesterday as far as if there is a potential outbreak among unvaccinated and forfeitures and all of that, how do you pass along that information? Do you emphasize it? Do you just to the whole team, just to the players who haven't been vaccinated? How do you address this kind of dual track you're on a little bit here?
I mean, these are challenging times, to state the obvious. Frankly, every team meeting, you have schedule updates. You're just in effect on a number of different focuses. This is the first time we've been here as a staff and a team that I've coached. So just trying to get tweaks and that you make just based on flow, and we'll continue to adjust that here through the week. And it's no different, I think, with the NFL, the league office is going through. So as they make the adjustments, you just adjust and act accordingly. I mean, that's so. Yes, I do give the updates. We'll have the league offices coming in tomorrow to look at some things, and so I'm sure there'll be conversations after that. I mean, these are unique times that we're in, so continue to communicate and make sure we're doing the things we need to do.
What's the purpose of the league offices visit?
Well, just coming in to take a look at our operation. I think it's a standard procedure. So I didn't realize I was breaking news there, Ed. I figured you had it already. So
just trying to make sure I understand it.
Okay.
What were your thoughts after one day of practice? What were you able to see?
I thought the first day, I liked the energy. I thought the pace and tempo, we hit the mark. So, but I think in a lot of ways, there were things that you go through in the first day. I mean, it's a great example why training camp is so important. So we have a lot of work to do, but we went back and emphasized our first install. It wasn't a very long practice. It was 2 hours, but I thought the players did a great job, doing it right and so forth. But it's it wasn't clean in some areas, but that's football. You get to clean that up, and we'll just continue to work on the time clocks and the spacing and timing, all those things that you need to do at this time of year. So I thought we got off to a good start. Felt good walking off the field, based off of the energy, the communication. We had the mock game. The second part of the day was really good. I think we just had the one hiccup near the end of it. So so for the first day, I thought the communication was exceptional for what we're trying to get done. So I don't like to compare it, to last year, but that's part of it. So we're definitely a lot further ahead than we were this time last year.
Also, not Dak, we certainly saw the minicamp and stuff like that. You whatever day with Dak.
Thought Dak made a very strong first impression, total command of the offense. So, and I think, where we are defensively too, I think we're able to take a step coming out of the spring for what we accomplished. And because the biggest challenge in my experience in training camp is the at the line of scrimmage work, the cadence, the ability to challenge the defense, and just to have your first practice. And it usually takes a few days to get into it, but just like today, we had a couple instances where the offense checked a play and the defense made another check, and so they they kind of won the scheme battle. So now now we want to go check. And that's football. So I think just the fact that obviously that's the way the quarterback mind works, but now for him to be able to exercise it in real time and get and get everybody else on the same page. This work is so valuable. It's so needed, and but I thought he made a very strong impression first day out there. Had a couple really nice throws. He had a big time throw in a scramble drill. I thought it was exceptional.
You didn't have Tyron and Lyle last year. How did they look on the first day?
Well, they look great. Obviously the offensive line as a whole. I really like the look of our offensive line. But yeah, both those guys are, the rehab, part of it. They've been excellent. So it was great to get those guys out there.
Michael, one other COVID-related story, unfortunately, I have to ask you about is the Vikings let Rick Dennison go because he refused to get COVID tested. Are you in that situation with any members of your staff where you're having that kind of decision-making?
No, our staff is 100% vaccinated.
Collins and Tyron seem to have different numbers of snaps. Looked like Tyron was out there a little more yesterday at practice. Can you just talk a little bit about what's going on with LC?
Yeah, no, I just think it's just a matter of, where he is coming off of it, yeah. But no, there's nothing really to, LC will continue to work, and yeah, I wouldn't put a whole lot into the snaps yesterday. Yeah.
What intangibles does Dak possess in terms of leadership that are unique, maybe, compared to others you've seen?
Well, I mean, I think when I think of Dak Prescott, outside of his, his talent as a professional athlete, I just his personality. He's so genuine. I think his, the foundation of who he is. He's genuine, and he's the same person every day. I think that goes so far in life, and definitely goes so far in our operation. So there's not a room he cannot walk into and connect with and be a part of, and and that's a unique skill that he has. His ability to relate and communicate is exceptional, and he's a young man beyond his years. But genuine jumps out to me first.
Did you get any sense that yesterday meant something a little extra to him?
Oh, I'm sure it did. I mean, I didn't talk to him about it, but absolutely. I think for the players that have been here, and the players particularly that have been injured last year and been here, this is a special place, for them. But all the communication has been extremely positive about coming back to camp here, and the fact that a number of those guys were on the injury reserve list last year. So I think there's a number of guys in that position.
How about for you, Mike, to see those guys all back on the field?
I'm sorry.
For you to see all those guys that were injured last year back on the field together.
I mean, stating the obvious, we're a different team. I mean, we're with our veteran players coming back, just watching them go through the rehab and feeling good about the return. It definitely will be a huge impact to our roster, huge impact to our team, and that's just why we want to have a healthy, competitive training camp, and they'll be a big part of our success.
Bernard exited very early in yesterday's practice. Do you have any update on the outlook of how much time he can miss?
Yes, he has a hamstring injury. I don't have the exact timeline for you, but he suffered a hamstring in the team fundamental drills.
What are some of the things you still need to see Dak do before you can say he's fully back to being the player he was before? I mean, he hasn't really faced a live pass rush. He hasn't run the football, hasn't been tackled. Are those still things that maybe psychologically he needs to conquer?
No, I think that's a very good observation. But I think time has to answer that. I mean, he looks no different today than my experience with him in live training camp action last year. So, I mean, that's a consistent, comparable, I think, for everybody that's been involved with his rehab. And so, I mean, and as we go into the padded practices, I think clearly that'll be a threshold that he'll get over, particularly with the bodies around him. Then we get into the teamwork. But I watched him closely in the teamwork live yesterday, by design, and he didn't flinch. I mean, he looked like he never left. So I mean, that's a good point. But when he plays in the preseason games, that'll be the second threshold for sure, and I'm sure he'll be as excited as anybody when we kick it off in Tampa.
What was your impressions of being out here in Oxnard and having a whole crowd here? I mean, you didn't have a crowd last year. Just your overall thoughts.
I mean, it's outstanding. It's everything that everybody said it would be. I mean, the facility, the setup is very functional. I mean, it's obviously beautiful. The weather, the music, the stereo systems are better than the one we had at home. Don't tell Jerry I said that, because I don't want to disrespect the star, but the energy was excellent. I mean, the energy on the field was excellent. The crowd was great. Yeah, and most importantly, our players appreciate that. I mean, it's the environment that, frankly, we need to get used to playing in. We've talked a lot about, playing with crowd noise. We play our first two games on the road, and just being out there yesterday is a reminder that we have a lot of work to do, particularly in crowd noise, just because we haven't done it, in quite some time. So, yeah, but the atmosphere here is excellent. This is a great place to have a training camp.
How much more important is preseason game and work for Dak coming off what he's coming off?
I think it's important, but I always think it's important. But I think when you get into these preseason games, the emphasis of playing your starters is important. But I think you can't lose sight of the young players. I mean, the young players need those reps. So The development of your young players is critical. The roster development as far as competition is probably, in my view, the most important thing in preseason. Because particularly your veterans, the norm is you have a relationship. I mean, there's familiarity, continuity that's already established. You can see that with our veteran players on offense. The newness of defense will probably factor into the decisions of who plays, how much they play, and this and that. So, that's all part of what goes into the decision making.
Will Dak play in the preseason?
Dak, I anticipate Dak to play in the preseason.
First game, even?
I anticipate Dak to play in the preseason. I mean, come on, I can't give you everything. I mean,
We can ask, though.
The secondary was active getting hands on the ball in team drills yesterday.
Yes.
What stood out most to you? And for a guy like Trayvon Diggs looking to make a second-year jump, what do you want to see from him this camp?
Trayvon looked great yesterday, but that was a huge emphasis even when going back to the postseason evaluation when we were talking about adding players to our defense, particularly this, the perimeter defensive players. We need to put a higher emphasis on players making plays on the ball. Their skill set coming out of college, the skill set, the free agents that we brought in, and that's been consistent. So, and I hope and I am confident that will continue to be part of who we are on defense. I thought the second half of last year that we did a really good job taking the football away, and we need to build off of that. But we've had a tremendous amount of change in personnel on defense. But I think those guys are off to a good start because we have some guys that have longer levers and the ability to go make plays on the ball. So that's a primary focus for us.
Tried Reggie Robinson at safety last year. In some sense, with him moving back to where he's most natural at corner, do you feel like you're almost evaluating him for the first time? And if so, how do you feel he looks this year compared to his other positions?
No, I like the intent of your question because I think it's important really for that whole rookie class. For the guys that really didn't get the opportunities, because I think like anything, because obviously we think very highly of Reggie. It obviously started on draft day, so I think sometimes as a coach you're guilty of trying to get them on the field, and then you probably hold them back a little bit because you spread them out, but changing positions and special teams work and so forth. But he prefers to play corner. That's something where it's been communicated, and I think he feels better there. But you want to make sure your young guys have plenty of opportunities to contribute, and I think he'll definitely have that opportunity this year.
You have a player as versatile as Micah. What are the discussions like with Dan and the staff on how much to put on his plate?
Well, I mean that's an excellent insight because frankly we did too much for him yesterday. His volume yesterday was off the charts as far as how much he did out there on the practice field. So that's I think that speaks to him and his ability and his talent. So but also we're new as a defense. We're trying to work different combinations of personnel. We have great challenges in front of us as far as trying to to play all those guys. But I think like anything, you don't want to spread him too thin, and because he is unique. You can see that right away out there, and particularly some of the plays he made in space and recovery, and you forget about his size and how powerful that he is. So I think like all of us, it'll be exciting to see him in pads and get going. So we'll continue to watch that because you want to make sure you're giving him his opportunities also.
Just with GPS numbers, or he played at this position, and that position?
Well, combination of both. Yeah, combination of both.
Not just him, but you threw so many numbers at the defensive side of the ball with your rookie class, free agency. Do you have a little bit different script early? Because I mean, you want to look at everybody and let them sort it out. But how do you keep it where everyone has a fair chance? Or if someone rises, do they just go to the top and they get those snaps? Or
well, I mean that frankly, I think that's a bigger challenge in today's NFL because of the limited number of padded practices. I think the non-padded practices are important. I think that trajectory that puts you into as far as your training sequence of how you build up. Like today, I've never just gone one practice and right into a regen day, and But it's something that's been talked about a lot in the past, and after watching it, us convert into this day, I frankly, I'll do it like this every year because, I think you tend to forget that, there's a lot of anxiety and stress that goes into traveling and the first day of camp and then long. So I think for all of the guys, there's a little bit of a, okay, we're here, and they got through the first practice and that. But I think really, in response to your question, that kind of, hopefully that'll take care of itself. But it is a bigger challenge because, you put so much value into padded practices and even a higher value into the preseason games. But then you get into the preseason games and it's I've seen it happen time and time again where, your reps don't get totally the way you want them because a lot of times when you, particularly with veteran players, especially quarterbacks, in my past, is it's not really a matter of if they're going to play. It's really who they're playing with because you're not just trying to play one guy a certain number of steps. Your reps, you're trying to get a certain personnel group or a combination of guys in a rush plan or a combination of guys in a coverage sequence. So I mean, all those things go into it. So you just hopefully it sorts out that everybody has had a fair chance to make the team, and you get the information you need to make sure you clearly evaluate your roster.
Having said that, how do you sort through the process of the competition for the backup quarterback spot?
I'm sorry, can you first part?
Quarterback spot. How do you sort through that process?
Well, I mean, there's definitely a rep count there, and it's set each and every time. I mean, no, I would think that these type of practices are definitely you can put more value into the quarterback position because decision making is really what a big part of that's going to come down to. So, but we'll continue to rep all three of those guys, and that'll be sequenced.
Progression from Danucci?
Oh, definitely. No, I think Ben Danucci's had an excellent offseason program. I thought he definitely was one of the top guys in the offseason program as far as, weight gains, strength gains in that particular area. I mean, his classroom, which is natural. I mean, he's clearly advanced. So we just got to get him to play with just a little more patience, a little more confidence. But his skill set is definitely what we're looking for. So he needs to take that second-year jump that we talk about with our second-year players. So up until this point, he's done that.
How do you build confidence in a young quarterback?
Oh, performance. I mean, he needs opportunities, and he needs to have success on the field. That's really his next threshold he needs to get over.
What do you like about KZ?
Everything. I like his disposition. I like the way he approaches the game, the way he flies around. His communication is exceptional. He's a ball hawk. I mean, he's got excellent ball skills, so he's an excellent fit.
With his coming off the injury that he's coming off of, do you have to monitor him here when you're out here? Or?
We'll see. I mean, we're watching him. I mean, it's we have a GPS meeting after 3 hours after every practice. So we're watching everything. So and that's really for all the guys that have gone through the rehab process. Particularly the veteran group.
When you have that meeting, what are you looking for in terms of making sure Dak is doing all he can, but not too much?
Well, I mean, there's history. Every player has history. I mean, every player has things that you look at it. It's broken down by drill, and you just push. But I'm not concerned about Dak's workload. So he handled a full workload yesterday.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.